doing the most insane stunts on screen, like sending a car into space, to behind-the-scenes rivalries that damaged on-screen production, the Fast and Furious franchise had too many reasons for it to lose its charm. The Fast and Furious series has managed to find its home in the hearts of action film lovers, and the adrenaline rush they got from the stunts on screen.
If we can't break through, we stop it.
Something that has worked for the franchise for a pretty long time, I must say. But it seems that their luck has finally run out, and the Fast and Furious series may just be unraveling. Which is unfortunate, really, because the all-star cast has brought us an incredible amount of adventures with a little bit of grit. A sprinkle of humor and a lot of nitrous, along with high-octane thrills and ridiculous automobiles. Now, despite multiple sequels and even more A-level actors on the cast list, some fans have regrettably seen a decrease in the quality of the series, like you often do when things have run their course, but they're still running. Sometimes you just have to cut your losses and abandon ship, to save yourself from going down with the ship. It's not hard to understand why the films aren't as well liked as they once were when you look at them more closely. It's high time they came to an end. As of 2021, there are 9 films in the franchise, and more are expected to be made during the following several years. Yep. I mean, do they know that it's a movie series and not a TV show? At some point, someone's got to yell, "Pack up!" And you know what? The franchise currently lacks the resources to support more sequels. Fast cars, illegal street races, and intricate displays of automotive work are flashy concepts. But the glamour started to wear off with time, didn't it? In other words, the films reached their heights around the time of, you guessed it, the Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. Street racing served as the series' main focus, while the films focused on strong family ties and fast automobiles. And yes, I agree the productions were over the top. Still, you have to admit that the earlier films had a lot more heart than cool factor. But the films started to lose the charm of their origins as time went on and the emphasis switched. It went from the underground racing world to murder-revenge scenarios, government operations, and cyber-terrorism. They basically lost their meaning and depth. Didn't they? Even the high-budget action scenes couldn't make up for the lack of depth in some of the plot lines, which often feel a little redundant. And just like there were too many films, there are now too many characters to keep track of. Favorites like Dominic and Mia Toretto, Letty Ortiz, and Tej Parker were part of the initial cast. But with each new episode, more characters are introduced, all of whom are quickly identified as being bad for the movie. The movies simply lose emotional impact when the audience is forced to pay attention to everyone on screen. This is particularly true for a cast made up of A-list performers, from John Cena and Charlize Theron, to Vin Diesel, Dwayne Johnson, and Jason Statham. The list simply goes on. It's always best to keep a handful of star actors that the show revolves around, right? But it didn't end here, did it? The seeming death and then reappearance of some characters is another problem entirely. Letty, Dom's girlfriend, is said to have passed away in the 4th movie, but she made a comeback in Fast 5 after surviving a murder attempt. Han Lu, a team member who was allegedly killed in an accident in Tokyo Drift, ends up making an appearance in Fast and Furious and Fast 5. We see Han die for a second time in the Fast and Furious 6, only to see him alive later in Fast and Furious 9. The list simply goes on. Now, with more films around the corner and even more spin-offs, character sacrifices and deaths lose a lot of significance. If you're just going to bring the guy back, why must we shed tears on his dying in the first place? Am I right or am I right? The productions got a little out of control too. Now, when the films originally came out, they offered high-octane thrills and outrageous action that pushed the limits while still being super entertaining to watch. Fans got to see the best of both worlds. They got the underground racing through fierce street races and the occasional fistfight. And yes, the Fast series has always pushed the boundaries of belief. But really? The thrills have progressively gotten out of hand. So I ask again, when are they reeling it in? The Fast series simply keeps releasing footage that fans can't exactly keep up with. 2 short films were produced in the middle of the 2000s, and a Hobbs and Shaw spin-off is scheduled to receive a sequel. That's just another problem. There are a tad too many spin-offs. These movies now lack coherence and even just plain old sense at times. Just because the MCU can pull it off doesn't mean every franchise can, right? Right now, it doesn't make sense for Dom's team to be so closely linked with the government in terms of the plot, now does it? The team had vast racing and mechanic knowledge.
The wires.
Read my mind. Han, get in front of me! Dom, I can't get to you!
But I can.
And the original movies made it apparent that they illegally jacked vehicles. But hiring them to take down criminal organizations, thwart hazardous mercenaries, and halt cyber terrorists, and hiring these guys to fight crime? See what I mean about it simply not making sense anymore? Besides the fact that Rock and Vin Diesel's feud didn't help either, you knew I had to go there, right? The continuous animosity between Vin Diesel and Dwayne Johnson has been detrimental to the Fast and Furious series. With 2001's The Fast and the Furious, Diesel has been part of the franchise from the start. Johnson, though, started working on the franchise with Fast 5 in 2011. Now, despite the fact that Johnson's entry into the franchise was favorably welcomed by both reviewers and viewers, tensions between the Fast and Furious franchise's male stars soon developed behind the scenes. And ultimately, the feud between Diesel and Johnson came to light in 2016. As The Fate of the Furious was under production, Johnson posted a now-deleted Instagram message in which he referred to unnamed male Fast and Furious cast members as candy asses. But we all knew what he meant, right? Yes, Johnson's remark immediately sparked speculation that it was directed at Diesel, and the two stars went on to post veiled criticisms of one another on social media. You know the drill, right? And it only got worse. When Tyrese Gibson, Johnson's co-star, claimed that Johnson was to blame for the postponement of filming F9, The Fast Saga, the conflict between Diesel and Johnson grew more heated. Diesel openly defended Johnson against Gibson's allegations, but the damage had already been done, and Johnson said that he would not be in F9, The Fast Saga. Although the conflict between the two only came to light in 2016, there are indications that it may have started during the Fast and Furious 6 filming several years earlier. So yeah, it was a long time coming, you guys. And the behind-the-scenes drama started to show on screen too. According to this one hilariously awful scene from the film, it's pretty clear that the conflict between Vin Diesel and Dwayne Johnson began during the filming of Fast and Furious 6 in 2012. It seems they simply couldn't be in one frame together, despite the scene's evident attempt to make it appear as though Johnson's Luke Hobbs and Diesel's Dom Toretto are speaking face to face. It really didn't sell, did it? Toretto is seen approaching Hobbs in the initial frame, but Diesel's eyes remain fixed, implying that he is not looking at Johnson. It's a very odd scene that only appears to have been captured using forced perspective in an effort to make Johnson smaller than Diesel. One reason why this Fast and Furious 6 sequence was shot this way is that Vin just didn't want to be physically dominated by The Rock. Their off-screen sparring really hindered the production process and gave the movie a bad reputation. And it wouldn't be far-fetched to think that the two superstars sabotaged each other, right? So really, there's not just one reason. That's a wrap on what's really hurting the Fast and Furious franchise.